not wanting to play for the team and having declined to work out for them before the draft. He had a pre-draft process where he refused to work out for any teams, leading to speculation about his preferred landing spot, with some reports suggesting he favored the Washington Wizards, Brooklyn Nets, or New Orleans Pelicans. Here's Bailey on going to Utah.
Ace, there was a lot of speculation that built up in your draft process. You know, you seem pretty happy to me to be going to Utah. But what do you say to people that maybe just don't believe that?
I mean, I control what I control, so how they feel. But to my team and me, me focusing on the basketball and them doing what they're doing, so it happens.
Bontemp, starting with you. What'd you make of Bailey going to Utah?
I mean, look, this was the fascinating moment in the draft. I mean, Chom's obviously all over all this stuff. The top 4 picks were pretty well set. The question all day going into the draft was, what was Utah going to do with the 5th selection? Austin Ainge running his first draft with the Jazz. Nobody really could get a sense of what they were going to do. They go take Ace Bailey. This is not what Ace Bailey's people thought they were going to do. They thought they were going to Washington. They were all set up to be on the East Coast. He's a guy who was born in Atlanta. He's from the Southeast. The Wizards had a big hole in the wing. He thought he was going there. I think, though, this could wind up being the best thing that ever happened to Ace Bailey. Will Hardy is one of the best coaches in the league. They've got a terrific organization from top to bottom. They've got a bunch of playing time and shot opportunities for him on the wing. This is a chance for him to go to a low-pressure environment, to grow, to get a chance to get as much as he wants to eat offensively. And we could look back on this a few years from now and say that this was a great setup for him and a great setup for the Jazz, and applaud the Jazz on taking a swing on a guy who didn't give them an opportunity to really get to see him up close and saying, this is the best player available. We're going to go get him. We're not going to worry about whether he wants to be here or not.
Toms?
So going into draft night, everyone around Ace Bailey knew he was going to go between 3 and 8 in this draft. And they were comfortable. They were fine with how they handled the process as long as he ended up around in that 3-8, which they were very confident in. And they didn't really care, I think, at the end of the day, where he potentially ended up because he's playing basketball and he's going to be on a team. I think the Jazz, between him and Walter Clayton Jr., to get those 2 players, I talked to someone in Utah last night, shot making, competitiveness, creativity, they got 2 players at the wing/forward position that can really help them.
McMahon?
Look, and look, if you're Utah, who cares if he wants to be there? What are you going to do? You're not going to take the paycheck. You're not going to play in the NBA. And, you know, Ace Bailey just said a whole lot of nothing, but he's not pouting. He's going to be a pro. He's going to go play for the Jazz. And if you're Utah, this is your 3rd straight year in the lottery. None of the previous guys that you've gotten these last couple drafts have flash star potential. You have to take a swing at the highest ceiling guy on the board. This is a team that is in desperate need of a young star that they can build around. Ace Bailey has that kind of potential. There's some risk involved, but there's also high reward here.
Keith?
I'm going to go with Tim on this one, right? You bring him in for a workout, you're just going to see the star power that he has, right? You don't really need to watch this guy work out. He tried to control the draft process, well, his people did, but Utah took a swing on which was perfect. He has star potential. I watched this guy at Rutgers. His shot-making ability is second to none, especially better than everybody's in this draft. Like, he is an elite scorer. He has size. He still has a lot of potential to grow into his game. So, I mean, if I'm Utah, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm not waiting on this guy. He was the best available player. I'm not waiting on somebody else to draft him when he's the best available player and we could get him right there.
Well, this is a Utah team that also went into the draft lottery hoping to jump up to one of the top couple spots. They end up falling all the way to 5th, and now they get a guy who was a consensus top 3 pick all year. So it's a great landing spot for them to get a guy who is that talented. And also, to Shams' point, I love Walter Clayton. I think he's got a chance to be a Jalen Brunson-type guy going forward. Guy won a national championship, was a great leader at Florida, incredible offensive production for them. And for a team that really needed scoring and production on the wing, like you said, I love the fit of Clayton there going forward for the Jazz.
I will say, this is not the first time a player and his representatives or anyone has tried to control the draft process.
Yeah.
And they very well know if a team is drafting you, you're going there anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Absolutely. All right, Keith, coming to you on this with a player perspective. Round 1 in the books. Tell me, who was the biggest winner last night?
I would say Utah, right? To be able to get a guy like that, be able to get 2 of those guys in the first round. I would say they are. I was leaning towards Dallas, but everybody knew what Dallas was going to do, and they won, of course. But I would say Utah to get a player like Ace Bailey. I watched this guy, man. His scoring ability is second to none. He was arguably the best scorer in the NCAA last year, and I didn't think, and nobody thought that they were going to have a chance to get him. So I would say Utah, and then getting Clayton, a guy that's known as a winner, went into Florida and helped helped them win a national championship right there. So it's two guys that could potentially turn this organization around, and they have some other pieces to put around them.
The biggest winner in this draft is the state of Texas, partners. And look, the Mavericks and the Spurs, you knew they were winning the draft when the lottery results came out. The Mavericks, 1.8% chance. They shoot right on up there. They get a generational talent when they really needed that to rally the fan base, if nothing else. Dylan Harper to the Spurs, plus another lottery pick, continued to build around Victor Wembanyama. And then that Houston team, a 2 seed, tough defensively, dominant rebounding. Desperately needed a go-to guy, used that number 10 overall pick to flip into Kevin Durant. The state of Texas, biggest winner in the draft.
Of course, McMahon likes Texas, but I'm going with the Atlanta Hawks. On Monday, or earlier this week, the Hawks go get Kristaps Porzingis, a terrific fit for their team, add shooting. They get rid of Terrence Mann's deal that only cost them the 22nd pick. Then they go into the draft last night. They turn the 13th pick into the 23rd pick, get Asa Newell, a guy who could have been a lottery pick, played with Cooper Flagg in high school at Montverde. Really interesting combo big for them. And most importantly, they get what could be the #1 pick in next year's draft for going back 10 slots, doing this trade with the New Orleans Pelicans, getting the better pick between the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see what happens with the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo this offseason. And most importantly, the Pelicans, a team that I talked to a bunch of people overnight. Pelicans are seen as a team that's not going to make the playoffs in the West and could be one of the worst teams in the West next year. And they now have an unprotected potential lottery pick for just going back a few slots in the draft. Atlanta's got a bunch of young guys. Porzingis is a great fit there. You look at the way they've gotten better over the last week. Atlanta's going to be an interesting team to watch in the Eastern Conference next year, especially after these Achilles injuries we've seen. And on top of it, they now potentially make up for trading away their prior first-round picks in the DeJounte Murray deal, maybe getting the #1 pick next year, maybe getting AJ DeBance on their team. So incredible week for the Hawks, an incredible night last night.
Atlanta getting themselves back in the mix there. But you mentioned Porzingis and Shams. I want to come to you on Boston, hearing a lot about Jalen.
Like, are we looking at a team that could be ready to drop the gloves with OKC next year?
Definitely, and even if Flagg doesn't, take that giant leap as a rookie, they still can compete because they still have other assets, like he said. They still have the P.J. Washington, the Najee Marshall. You still have Klay Thompson. They have a loaded team, and with Kyrie back, they was already contending. So when Kyrie back comes healthy, if they can stay healthy, I think that's the biggest hurdle for the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks is being healthy, and with a healthy Kyrie, they have a great chance to compete for a title.
Well, look, I mean, everyone has all eyes on this, Shams, but if you look at what they have done there, Nico Harrison, they were still chanting his name at the draft in Brooklyn last night. That said, what is it he's actually done here?
Nico Harrison has built arguably the best front line in the NBA. Cooper Flagg now coming into a group that has Anthony Davis, Jarrett Lively II, Daniel Gafford, who just got a 3-year, almost $60 million extension. As far as their hopes still to compete for a championship, though, that hinges on Kyrie Irving coming back. That's the linchpin of everything that they do there. He is so big for them on the court, as a scorer, as a leader. And I spoke to him the other night when he committed to a new 3-year, $119 million